The one they call the Big Daddy Kane is here as the party animal, sex symbol, soloist, vocalist, microphone miracle, here to react, attack. As a matter of fact, I bring forth a sudden impact. Wanna say knick-knack, paddywhack, give Kane a microphone, and all the other MCs are going.
At the Grand Concourse 149th Street station in the Bronx, graffiti writers gather at what they call the Writers' Bench.
Jay-Z is like Elvis, man. He's like Elvis, dog. Like, he's the Elvis Presley of rap right now, man. That's just.
But you know what? You know what, Vic? I agree with you. But my thing is, I know what he's doing, but I know what he's capable of doing, and I can't. It's hard for me to release what I know he's capable of doing. Whether he does it or not is another story.
Right. I mean, right now he's in a position that he can go back to that reasonable doubt.
Which is what I mean by Elvis.
Everybody will pay attention and be like, "Yo, this shit is incredible," you know, because they throw around that classic word too quick nowadays. Anyhow, so I mean, I never take stock on what people say.
That's all I mean, man. Like, you know, me and Ev was building today, man. I got the three greats. I got the Ready to Die, I got Illmatic, and I got Reasonable Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it tucked away. You know, then I got other shit, but it's like this cat now, man. Like, you know, he's just so huge that whatever he do, you know, we just like fuck, you know, give it to me and shit, man. And the shit had the time, like late in the latter half, was just complete garbage. And I don't think anybody should be scared to say that shit, man. I'm more scared of my Beanie Siegel comment down there in Philly than anything. But I'm just saying, man. Like,
but you know what I think it is too, Vic, with me too, when I get into this conversation with a lot of people. You know, again, and this is not, I'm not saying everybody. I know a lot of dudes who are my friends who, like Beazle said, who are hip hop heads. I think they've fallen in love, and now I want to say it, I think they still like Jay because of what Jay portrays. You know, Jay portrays success. Right. You know, so for you to tell, for another man to tell me that this album is a classic and you haven't heard it, that lets me know that you're more enamored about the man than the music. You're more enamored about the money he brings in. He's got Beyonce, he owns the Nets, he sold the Nets, now he's an agent, he signed KD. Because for you to say something is a classic and you've never heard it, that lets me know it's no longer about the music. It's all about the man. And I think that that's where a lot of people are with Jay, because I always tell people this: let Jay and Dame Dash switch places, and let Jay-Z be the one with all the IRS tax problems and going broke, and let Dame be the one with all the money. Bet money that 70% of Jay-Z fans go away, because now they know he no longer represents what people want. He no longer represents success. He's broke again. Every time you look up, the tax man did this. Beyonce divorced him. He paying $1 million a month in child support. He back in Marcy. 70% of these Jay-Z fans are gone because he no longer represents that.
Well, you know, it's a lot with that, man. It's like what I was trying to explain before. You know, these cats out now, man, they don't have to, it's not as hard for them to make a song, man, as it was for y'all. Everybody on here is an early 90s cat. I mean, it was harder. That's what I was talking to Grap about with the tape. You know, I talked to Ev about that earlier. Just imagine if Brand Nubian had Pro Tools on their first album.
But you know what it is? I've always wondered this. And Ev, you could tell me because you're more the engineer head. And Grap, I'm sure you've been in a million studios. Is it really about Pro Tools and the CDs and all that? Or is it just about, like for instance, D'Angelo's album? If y'all buy it, you open it up. The first thing is like, look, this was all recorded on 2-inch tape. Everything was analog. Yeah, we used some Pro Tools plugins here and there, but we were looking for that sound because there's still a lot of great music that came out once CDs was out and once Pro Tools was out. So is it really about the digitalized world, or is it the laziness of I'm not going to be in the studio with you because I don't have to be. So, you know, like you said, Vic, rap, how much of Mecca and the Soul Brother was sent via email. It's like, to me, there's a different chemistry that comes from us being in the studio together, us collaborating, versus me saying, yo, here's 50 beats, pick the 50 beats you, pick the 10 beats you want for the album, you rhyme over it. Like, this whole album is recorded, and we've never even been in the same studio, you know? And is that it? Because JP, you're a big, what is Fonte's group? Foreign Exchange. Their first album, they never even met, right?
Right.
They recorded that whole album, never even met. Like, one dude was in London or whatever, and Fonte's over here. So is it really the tape? Is it all of that? Or is it just that we're now so lazy that it's like we don't have to be in the studio together? Like, we don't have to collaborate. We don't have to be. So, Ev, do you feel like it's the tape and it's the digitalized world that does it?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think it's a combination of the actual, the chemistry when you're creating. I think it's a combination of. I think the technology plays a part, but I also think it's not just the Pro Tools thing. I think it's the timing clock, because the problem with the timing clock is everything is going to hit perfect, but the problem is that's actually wrong. It's actually imperfect because life doesn't hit perfect. Nothing hits perfect like that. So when you have a perfect timing clock, now, because in the timing clocks are different than the MPC clocks. The MPC clocks, they weren't perfect. So you could sequence to it, but it's not going to be like exactly the same way. Whereas, you know, in certain DAWs now, like Logic or Pro Tools, if you put your beat in there, it's going to hit the same way, and that works great for, like, you know, drum and bass or electronic music, but for me, not really for hip hop or rhythm and blues, because there's no swinging. So, you know, I think some of that, you know, if I get a little scientific with it, that plays a part a little bit as well. Just the sound, the timing of the rhythm, the melody. We rhythm people, so if the rhythm ain't right, it's not gonna really, you know, to me, it's not gonna hit me like that.
Yo, Ev, what you said right there is 100, because I remember years ago talking to this cat, damn, my nigga's name, he's a drummer, and he was saying how he's like, the one problem he has with cats, the hip hop niggas, is loop some shit as opposed to chopping it, and I respect what he's saying, I agree with him 100%, but he's like, yo, when you take a sample, if I chop a sample and I'm taking 2 bars, you know what I'm saying, that's the loop, it's a couple of 2-bar loops or whatever, the timing isn't gonna be exactly, the kick on that sample is gonna be perfectly on time with the kick of my you know, the shit that I'm laying underneath it necessarily. You know what I mean? So it does give it that more natural feel. Never mind the fact I'm sampling something from an organic, you know, acoustic guitar. This nigga's playing a real grand piano. This nigga's playing a real horn. I'm not taking some DAW's horn or version of a flute and all of that other digitized sound and shit. But the ones that he said as a drummer, he's like, yo, the problem with that he has with hip hop drums is like, yo, when I play drums, first of all, he's like, I come into the studio, he's like, there's songs of mine that I can hear, and he's like, I can remember the mood I was in, and that's why I played the way I play. That's why I hit the drums that hard that day. And then that day I came in, he said, one session I had an argument with my wife right before I came to the studio. He's like, and I was hitting them drums so hard, the niggas had to tell me to, you know, hey man, you know, you got to tone it down. That song don't call for it. But it's like that first snare, you might hit it real hard. The second snare, you know, almost as hard. So it is like, what it does is just tapping into multiple frequencies. You're getting the same drone sound over and over and over and over.
The human body, the human anatomy is not made for that, because it gets monotonous and you get bored.
Right.
So that's why that house music and all that shit is that monotonous sound, and the people that get, you know, you're doing the drugs in the club and drinking and smoking and all that, and you just kind of nod out, because it's all the other shit that making it work. But in terms of, again, going back to soul music, why it makes it soul music, because that shit taps into the essence of your personality, man. And that's why, Kill, you might love a particular song that I can't stand it, but just something about that song, it taps into a negative shit for me. But for you, it taps into some positive. Maybe it reminds you, that energy from that song reminds you of some totally, had nothing to do with this song, but some shit, some innocuous event in your life when you was a kid, and you don't even remember it. But it's like, it's just it's a familiar sound and energy. So,
but
you know, what you said is 100.
But like what I was saying with the D'Angelo album, so it's all recorded on 2-inch tape, it's all analog, but they use some Pro Tools plugins, it's on CD. Did that take away Or is it just literally it just needs to be on 2-inch tape? Is that the problem?
I think the way that album was recorded in the studio with everybody at the same time.
That's
and
why.
the other one that I know was like that was Maxwell's last joint. And they just recorded the guy, Cat singing, Cat's on the drums, and it's like we're gonna do it how it actually was done back in the 70s. Because we ain't got time for Bobo to get in there with the drums, and then Jimmy gets in there with the horn and come. We all got to do it at the same time, but we got to keep doing it until we master the sound. And that's what, to me, D'Angelo did, which is one of the reasons why I really like that joint. I think that album, to me, is really banging because it feels different. Like, and one example of that is, that shit came out, I don't know, I still listen to it almost every day.
Same with me, bro.
I'm into it. I'm into it that much. But I think the recording process plays a big part in the sound.
That's dope. Yo, what happened?
I asked that, man, because I told Ev earlier, man, like for the last 2 years, more than MP3 or CD, I still actively dig and collect albums, and it's like, they were recorded totally different. I don't have a tube amp. I'm getting a tube amp, and I rock clipsless Scalas, so I got the real shit at the crib, man. And I'm about to up my game and throw a tube amp on them records, man. But it's just, you can just tell, man, they just sound so differently, man. And I asked Ev that today, man. Like, imagine Al Green with Pro Tools. Would we have gotten,
I think another bad part too is MP3. I think the MP, how everything gets flat in the sync.
MP3 is shitty.
It sound like cardboard, man.
I know nowadays how everything, especially on iTunes, it be like it was mastered specifically for iTunes. Like, it doesn't sound like it's specifically mastered so you can listen to it in them earbuds, not so you can hear stuff on big speakers. It's a different thing.
Because I'm gonna give you a prime example of that MP3 shit. If you
what you just said right there, JP, is crazy. Because like the last week actually, while I missed the show, I was meeting my man's. He's trying to hook me up with this other nigga that's looking for producers to manage or some shit. He got some niggas he working with or whatever. And they wanted to, I forget where he wanted to do this shit after listening to some beats. I'm like, fam, let me give you some, let's listen to the joints in the car, man. Listen to the shit in the whip. So you can hear that shit and feel, because that's how we used to. The first joint we sold to Lauren, that's how we got the joint, that DC music seminar, you know what I'm saying, at Howard. We sit in the nigga's whip, nigga threw the tape in, and that shit is banging, thumping, and you just feeling that shit. That's how hip, like Primo, I know for years, that's what he would do and shit. Like, as soon as you done with it, went out to the truck and see how it sounded. If it don't sound right out there, nah, we got to do it over. It ain't gonna sound right.
If you listen to that Isaac Hayes Walk On By, and I told Ed this, man, that yo, you could barely hear that shit on the album. But if you buy it on CD, it's so upfront. My point being, when Ev told me about what we was going to talk about tonight, I was like, yo, I'm the ultimate hater. I don't listen to anybody now. And he was, well, what's up? I was like, because the way the shit is recorded, everybody sound whack to me. Like, yo, it ain't nothing out there that you just really be like, yo, that shit is, and just based on how Bezo and Ev just broke that shit down, that's just really grabbing me like that, man. I feel not bad, but come on, man. Common was dope. Like I said, anybody that was rocking back then was rocking. They just were. And now, all of a sudden, now everybody sounds whack.
Well, hold on for a second. JP, you were saying that stuff on iTunes will say it was mastered specifically for iTunes?
Yeah, like, if you go on iTunes and if you go to somebody's album, somebody's page or whatever, it'll say certain songs will be like mastered for iTunes. Like, you see that all the time. You see that all the time on that.
Yeah, they got their own type of
because nowadays when kids download, they listen to most of their music in the headphones.
On the telephone.
They don't got big speakers and like that. They don't have that. They don't have that.
This is what you're saying. Like, remember back in the day in the 80s and 90s, you get the nigga with the big ass speaker box in the trunk and the amp and all that.
In Vegas or something like that, you know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? But cats ain't doing that no more. Now it's about like you said, the earbuds and that tinny, thin sound. So, which is perfect for that electronic shit. You know what I mean?
I think what they're trying to get at too with the.
Quick question. So, mastering for iTunes versus mastering another way. Like, I never knew you could specifically master
Well, I was going to touch on that. I think that's probably somebody's marketing employee because iTunes only thing they have as far as uploading your music to is just having it in a certain type of format. And actually, that's not even really true because you can upload WAV or MP3. But I think when I hear mastering for iTunes, I think cats are now mastering for, because you got to think about it. A lot of people are listening to music through their computer speakers. Right. So, and if you're mastering so your shit sounds good on computer speakers, that means you're going to get a lot of high end, right, and you're not going to have a lot of low end because low end is not going to register on computer speakers like that or earbuds like that. So, that means your trouble's going to be all crazy and you're going to be lacking in the bass department. So when you play that shit on your real speakers, it's like you got to still tweak the bass and get the bass just right because it's something that's missing. But I think my feelings for that, if I get a little spiritual with it, is that that low end, that's us, man. That's like that's the drum.
Drums, man.
Actually, what you call it said it best. Lee Scratch. She was like drum, bass.
Yeah, man.
And that was it.
Think back to when niggas was in Africa, and how cats would communicate with the drums. Drums is the most identifiable sound to hip hop for me. And like we talked, like in one of them previous shows, we talked about ego tripping. That's why ego tripping and Peace to President, Funky Drummer. That's why them beats, those straight up drums. Funky President.
I'm gonna ask you this.
Resonate with you as soon as you hear it, you know it because it's organic to your soul. I mean, it's
and another, my bad, Beats. My bad. Real quick. Another thing with that type of mix is you got to think who it attracts.
Right. I'm gonna ask y'all this, man.
That's who they gonna buy and sell the shit to.
Whoever took the time for the engineering, because like when I say, man, I really collect records. Some of the most expensive records are the mono records. Is there a reason behind that?
Really?
I don't know. Me personally.
I don't know. You know what's funny, Elvis? Like, I mean, Vic, when you think back, I'm sure a lot of y'all know this too. Anybody that's find old records.
What was you saying, Grab?
Probably rarity.
Well, I was reading this cat. He said just the way that it sounded, like the mono records.
Well, I was gonna say
hitting harder.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know why that is. I guess it's because the sound is. Think about it. It's like
it's probably all together.
Right, it's all together. Because like when I use Recycle, for instance, when I chopping up samples, they have you can process it and normalize the gain and the shit or whatever. And what I do, and I found this out the hard way, I normalize the gain while the joint is the samples in stereo. But then when I convert it to mono,
don't give away too many secrets, man.
I ain't gonna give away no secrets. I mean, not to these cats. This ain't. But are we still recording?
Yeah, I keep it going now. Last week I stopped with me and JP and Ab, but we done did a whole nother show. I'm gonna use these for the outtakes. Like if we ain't got a week.
But when I noticed when I converted to mono, I could again normalize it and get more. I can get more boost out of the sound. But if I leave it in stereo, you normalize it once, that's it. But when I convert it, and then if I convert it back to stereo, it's crazy. I can convert it back to stereo and tweak it a little bit. But I think if you think back to like James Brown and them cats, and even some jazz dudes, and I'm sure all of y'all would agree that you will come across some shit where just the horns are in this side, just the drums is in this side. And I think that was cats still, the technology was new, and cats was finding new ways to record and get the sound right. You know what I mean? Shit, there was times, I don't know if y'all, I'm sure y'all seen the Ike Turner, Tina Turner movie where they was recording in the damn crib. You know what I'm saying? Just sitting in the dining room recording a song that ended up, being played all over the country type shit. So as the technology has grown, a lot of times the technology is designed for ease of use. So it likes to take away certain steps that you normally had to do. You know what I mean?
I will say that
you lose some shit. Mm-hmm. You do lose things.
Mm-hmm. I will say this: that what you were talking about was just the horns on one side and things of that nature. That came from stereo recordings. You know what I mean? And that was an advantage in sampling. That Pete used that quite a bit, where he was able to separate, what I mean, stuff like and
now, is that stereo, Brad?
I think
because I was going to ask that, man. I mean,
if you listen to it
with the two speakers sort of close to you, you'll hear the sounds in secret speakers.
Yeah, throw on some headphones. And
Because I DJ just a little bit, man, and if you listen to, like, I'm gonna just pull a song, "You Belong to Me" by Michael McDonald. That intro with the no, that the piano is on one side and his voice is on the other side, and that shit is crazy, man. Like it's separated. If you pan it left to right.
Yeah, that's stereo recording.
That's stereo.
Okay. What Grab said, I think that was like an advancement in technology. Like cats, like, oh, okay, we don't have to have it, because it's crazy. I used to have this old. I used to have an old tube amp, stereo amp and shit, but it had a button for stereo reverse where it would flip the sound or left or just right.
I got that on my amp.
I would go record shopping, you know what I mean? Because I could just same shit. I would hear the drums over there, and I could just turn into the right speaker and just hear that shit. But if you ever get a chance, and I don't know if you have it, they even come like this anymore, where you can switch from stereo to mono, especially if you listen.
I got that on my power amp.
If you can sit with your eyes closed and you listening, when it's in stereo, it sounds separated. But together, you know what I'm saying? It's one joint, but it sounds separate. You put it in mono, and it almost sounds like a ghost. Like it's just right in front of you somewhere. But it's not as, I don't know, it's not as rich. You know, it's a little bit duller sound. It's not quite as colorful, if that makes any sense. But I think it's the technology just advanced so much. It's just made shit easy, man. I mean, I used to see it when I worked at Sam Ash years ago, man. It was like everybody and their moms would come in there trying to be a DJ, and then it literally, Newmark started selling DJ in a box. I mean, it's like,
the reason why I brought that up, Kill, a little bit later, because one of my greatest influences, man, and I hope one day we just really blessed enough to get this cat on the show. Ev knows him. It's a brother named Chris, and I don't have the text anymore, but he's a fan of our show, and he asked that. His whole thing was, can these cats really talk about why hip hop just sounds so synthetic now?
I'd love to have that show.
That's a great dog.
I got
and specifically, he was talking about, you know, not being able to use, not sampling, not being able to use SPs, MPs. You know, I built with a cat the other day. I was telling Ev today, he showed me a picture of some shit. He was like, yo, this is like an MP. And I was like, what does that mean? It's like an MP, like, but it's not an MP.
Yeah, he might even talk about the machine, the Ableton, but
right.
And you know, Ev was the one that taught me that today about the clock. You know, like I never even, you know, I'm no MP dude. I would have never.
Yeah, because think about it, Vic. You know, it's like back then, the metronome that's basically what the drummer was about. I mean, the drummer is how you kept timing and shit. You know what I mean? It wasn't no, you know, 1, 2, 3. That's it. You know what I mean? And the drummer had to be. That's why cats like Clyde Stubblefield, you know, and Purdy and all them cats. That's why they was so ill, man, because they could keep the timing like Michael Jackson. That's a perfect pitch. Them niggas' timing was almost as sharp as you could get, but they could still find those, you know, them extra little notes in there at the same time with the drums, man. That's what made them incredible drummers. You know what I mean? But fellas, I got to get out of here, shit. Wife.
All right, out, y'all. Peace. We check out next week.
Peace. Bless it.